Girls, what things do guys do to impress you that make you cringe? As a woman of circa 30 with a big chest, I've seen a lot of that. Some of the things guys think will impress me are truly bizarre, and I can only assume their ideas found in some Mars or Venus BS and legitimized by women who act like impressionable idiots as part of their flirting strategy. General alpha behavior. Yes, you may be stronger than me, but wrenching things out of my hands because let a man do the job or telling me what I think or should think is not something that will get you under my skirt. Following up on that aggression and hostility towards others, especially other men, you think I need protection? Okay, fine. You think you need to pound your chest and bare your teeth at every passing male? I'm out. Bad-mouthing other women. You may think that telling me about that one chick who was so ugly and fat will be hilarious and will suggest to me that I'm not ugly and fat and we can laugh at her together, right? All it suggests is that you're an abrasive a-hole. Also, sexism. Yes, there are men who think that dropping remarks like, women should not be allowed to drive will make me feel so awesome that despite their hatred for all that is female, they'll still stoop to interacting with me. Or something, dunno. Bragging. If you're doing cool stuff, I will want to hear about it. But cool stuff does not become cooler when you adopt a condescending braggart tone. I have a friend who travels a lot and he can always tell you what he saw and why he thought that particular spot was interesting, and he tells you how cool these places were, not how cool he is for having gone there. Whether you're skydiving or playing League of Legends, tell me how great that activity is, not how great you are. Speaking of negative behavior as if it were good, the fact that you get blackout drunk or do substances or have beaten someone, have hurt someone, slept with a girl and never returned her calls, or break law while driving is not a good thing. Quit behaving as if it was a good thing. Story 2. Nagging. They assume that not only will it work, but that I somehow don't read books or use the internet enough to know why they're insulting me. It never makes you look good. It makes you look like a pretentious, misogynistic jerk who gets dating advice from online forums which assume women are inherently predictable and easy to target. Telling me women who are as smart as me don't usually look like I do. Maybe women in graduate school aren't there as decorations? Complaining about how crazy your ex or all of your exes were. Badmouthing your exes makes me think that you have a poor choice in women and also will probably badmouth me when I'm not around. Maybe all of your exes are crazy, but the common denominator is you. Continuously trying to make physical contact when I'm openly uncomfortable. I went out with a guy and we were supposed to meet a bunch of people for a law school dinner, and at the last minute, he asked me to just go to dinner alone. Whatever, I went. All dinner long, he kept trying to get me to drink more, complained about his exes, and kept trying to play footsie with me until I was in a contorted position to avoid his feet. It was awful. Which reminds me, do not pressure me to drink more. This is not only disrespectful, it comes off as extremely creepy. What the hell is negging? Story 3. I normally hate these threads, but I'll bite. Anything that's specifically aimed at impressing me is going to backfire. Dude, I don't want to be impressed. I want to get to know who you actually are, not who you want me to think you are. I once dated a guy and it seemed like everything he did was to be as impressive as possible. Not in a showy way exactly, just that he got involved in absolutely everything and all he ever talked about was what he did. Never what he thought or believed or liked. It's like, cool. So you're the president of XYZ organization and you're making a film and you're a full-time student and you have a job and you volunteer and you've been to 30 different countries. And that's very nice, but who are you exactly? Those things are all great things, don't get me wrong. They were pretty impressive. But if you don't have the substance or the character to back all that up, if who you are is defined exclusively by what you do, then you're not that interesting to me. Anyway, it's not exactly cringeworthy, I guess, but that was my experience with not being impressed by a person who, on paper, should have been very impressive. Didn't help that he was so busy. He couldn't actually make time to date anyone anyway. Plus, we just were not looking for the same things. Story 4. Today, I sat on a nice sunny bench in Boston Common to eat my lunch. I sit down and immediately this random approximately 25-year-old man comes over and says, very particularly and quietly, "Excuse me, I have to ask you a question, because you're a woman. When you see someone disfigured or with a terrible skin disease, you're disgusted, no? My question is this, when you speak to a man with a soft, womanly voice, are you disgusted then as well?" Meanwhile, I'm barking, "What? What? Speak up, I can't hear you, woman." But I say to myself, screw it. So I respond that, no, personality is what matters, just be yourself, etc. We get into a whole conversation about how he can be more comfortable around women. He tells me his life story. He just immigrated here a few years ago and the women are different, etc., etc. The whole time he's standing in front of me while I sit on this bench disinterestedly eating. Then the twist. These squirrels have noticed my food and they have been darting around, closing in on me and slowly gaining confidence. There are 3 of them. They start climbing up on the bench next to me. One pushes my leg with its front 2 paws and sticks its head in my jacket pocket. Another sticks its head in my purse where I have a cookie. I kind of laughed and swatted at them. I've never seen them this bold in this park before. My new friend is like, "Those squirrels are so disgusting. They're filthy." I'm like, geez, I'm not licking them or anything. And he immediately backs off like, yeah, oh yeah, they're just squirrels. They're practically tame. By this point, the crazy squirrels are crawling across my lap trying to sneak bites of my sandwich, simultaneous with my own bites. One of them crawls over my shoulder for a better angle, and I'm laughing at the whole scene. And then I nearly pee myself when the guy goes, see? Harmless. And rapidly picks up a squirrel in each hand and holds them out to me. The squirrels are just dangling there limply like, what the just happened? He goes, here, hold it. I'm like, hell no. And this is not what I meant when I said to be yourself with women. The visual of the guy snatching the squirrels and offering them to you is hilarious. Story 5. I once went on a second date with a guy who came to pick me up. I live in apartments and try to be super considerate of my neighbors all the time. As soon as I get in his car, he starts revving his engine super loud. A, I'm not impressed by that whatsoever, and B, I'm not sure none of my neighbors appreciate the noise. Crazy driving. Maybe once I've known you for a while and understand that you have total control of your car, I'll be more comfortable with you driving fast and reckless. But until then, showing me how you can drift around a corner just makes me think you're being reckless with my life. Please stop. That was our last date. I once had a guy tell me way too many giraffe jokes, but I forgave him. He was hot. Story 6. In my experience, here is what makes me want to walk away automatically. Buttering up. Like at the gym, if a guy's like, wow, you're such a good climber, you have such good technique, etc. Thank you, but I was warming up. Nothing really that impressive. I know you're just trying to butter me up. It can come off as sweet sometimes, but others, it just makes me cringe. Self-involved. When a guy starts a convo with me and then just ends up talking about himself. I thought you were approaching me because you found me interesting. I am polite and ask about your hobbies and such, and then you don't ask me about mine? What? Don't be a noodle. If you're going to ask me on a date, be direct and stand your ground. If you ask me to dinner and I say, as in a date, then you respond, maybe. What the hell? What does that mean? Are you interested in me or not? It's like, I understand you don't want rejection, but girls like to know that you 100% like them, not just, I maybe like you. This point may be just completely individual to my case, but lately I've seen so many short guys come up to me. I want a guy that's taller than me. I don't want to feel like a giant anymore. The shorter guys must have more I guess. Honestly, I just really like it when a guy is genuine. He isn't putting on an act or reciting a line from his head. He's just being genuine. And that's all you should ever be, because then what's the point? I do like a little aggression. It shows me you're up for a challenge. I've got the issue of wanting to be respected in public and dominated in the bedroom. Hard to find a guy who can balance both. Each girl is different, though. Don't be a noodle. I hope everyone is enjoying my video so far. Girls, are these 100% true? Do you agree with this? I truly believe that other guys should take note of this. If you thought this was helpful, how about hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel? Story 7. This really reminds me of economics and a bit of pop psychology. Assuring they have a high social status, which is attractive, but they have misinterpreted what it means or try to fake it on the cost of their friendship, which in turn proves only that they are willing to sacrifice it, or bits of it, just to create a fake image of themselves. Drives in a car? If so, again, wealth and social status. A belief that a high demand for them will make them appear as scarce, therefore valuable. A manipulation of perspective. If muscular, perhaps a passion. If not, a promise for an increase or perceived value. Therefore either appearing as more valuable now and or pushing on lost alternative cost fees. No idea. Maybe the appearance of being cool, which is associated with mid-late 20th century stereotypical James Bond character. If so, again, wealth plus social status. Well, either your friends are autistic or you give off signals that make them think so, or something in this point is missing or I am missing it. Yes, identifying themselves or claiming that identity, being of a different product puts them in a most likely, and in their opinion, a different market, for which they have identified as a target audience and therefore propose or suggest their value as good product. Anything you like in men, e.g. beauty, to you. Story 8. Maybe it's just me, but asking if I live alone. Now, if at this point of inquiry there was an already established friendship, I suppose it's okay. But if you're a stranger or an acquaintance, that would freak me out. A few years ago, I lived in Pittsburgh. I didn't have a car, and when I needed litter or hay or pellets or treats, I'd walk a few miles, buy en masse, and strap items to my back to walk home. One time a guy stopped me to chat, offered to help me take my stuff home, and kept insisting when I said, "Nah, I'm good. I do this all the time." I maybe shouldn't have told him home wasn't very far. I finally told him my roommate probably wouldn't approve of a random guy coming in. He paused, looked like he was digesting this information, and asked if my roommate was male or female. I said male, and he actually backed off quickly, like he physically left within seconds of hearing it. Richard Harrow was my roommate at the time, and he's a bunny. But really, I had to resort to that? If you'd said, "Here's my number, no pressure to call it, I just think you're interesting," that'd have been fine. But repeatedly inviting yourself into my home after you noticed me walking is severely inappropriate. I hope this guy was just a social derp and not looking for trouble, but if I just met you 2 minutes ago, I can't tell. Richard Harrow would have fought that dude off. I swear. Have you seen bunnies fight? Go check it out. It's funny as hell. Story 9. When men I don't know well at all do random favors for me without me asking. I know it can come from an innocent place, but I've had enough buildups to creepy behavior that started with small things that I'm immediately suspicious. Example, not terribly dark. A previous neighbor of mine who was around 45, I was 25. We lived in a house split into apartments, so we shared a yard. He would water my flowers, spread mulch onto my flower beds, clean my gutters, etc., without asking beforehand if I wanted or needed him to help, but he'd always tell me afterward he'd done it. I was already kind of wary about what he expected from me, so I thanked him with a six-pack, which seemed to disappoint him. He also said numerous times that he worries about me living alone and he'd protect me if I ever had an intruder or anything. Which, okay, thanks. I decided he was just a generous person. He introduced me to the other neighbors, and once in a while we'd all go out for a drink at the pub down the road and he'd pay for everyone's drinks, regardless of whose idea it was to go out. So I thought, okay, this is just how he is. And I thought that until I looked up from my couch around 11 p.m. and he was standing in my flower bed staring through my window with his hands cupped around his eyes. He grinned and tapped on the glass like, hey, come here, let's talk. So I went outside. I was waiting for a friend to come pick me up, to find him wearing what I think was a suit, swaying, very drunk, and he said, let's go out. Where do you want to go? I was like, hey, sorry, I've got plans with a friend tonight. So he interrogates me about what kind of friend. It was a guy. Then out comes the list of all the things he's done for me. How he'd never let anyone hurt me, how even though he's old enough to be my father, then he kind of trailed off. I asked, do you mean go out on a date? Mumbles, yeah, kind of. I said I didn't think of him that way, and that he was right. I kind of did put him in the category of people my father's age. Then he got mad, saying things like, wow, so that's how you're gonna be, huh? And I was just so surprised and had no idea what to do, so I just started apologizing. My friend arrived with flawless timing. Story 10. Consistent pursuit. My senior year of high school, a junior guy kept pursuing me. We were in an Algebra 2 class together and had after-school practices for theater. This was my first year in any production. My goals that year were to try something new and maybe make some new friends. Enter junior. It started off as friendly conversations, things we had in common. He was nice and funny, but not my type. There was no spark for me. He asked me out. I said no. He was polite about my rejection, and I figured we'd be friends. About 2 months into the school year, he said that he was having a bunch of the cast over for a party that weekend. Sure, who doesn't like a party? When I got to his house, it was just him, his family, and me. I thought I was early. No problem. I sat in the living room and we talked. 15 minutes later, I texted a friend and told her to call me ASAP and fake an emergency because my gut felt off. By the time she calls, I've been there about 35 minutes, his mom is almost done cooking dinner, no one else has shown up, and his dad had made a passing remark about his son bringing such a nice girl for dinner. That was the official red flag. I knew Junior hadn't invited anyone else over. I noped out of there saying my sister had locked herself out of the house and she needed my key. I ignored him as much as I could after that. One-word responses when he asked me things, minimal interaction during class and practice. He asked me out 3 more times that year, either oblivious or ignorant to my retraction. The last time was to prom and he knew I had started dating someone. He played it off as, oh no, I meant both of you come with me. Not a group, mind you, just him. I had to drop out of theater that spring due to a bad conflict, and it ended up being a blessing because it got me away from him. It's a tame example, but it still gives me the creeps when I remember him. I took Algebra 2 as a senior because math wasn't my strong subject. I had to make a scene because I was raised to be a polite Southern girl and I hadn't overrided that yet. It was less about him and more about not being rude to the hosts. He was a socially awkward guy, and I had not met him until we started rehearsals. I didn't know this guy existed until I joined theater, and one of my senior year goals was to make new friends. My best friend graduated the year before I did. I didn't start seeing issues until it was too late. He's also now married, last I heard. I called it tame because I know there are women out there who have been assaulted in these kinds of situations. This was my first and only experience with this. Story 11. Men. All men. Can I make a request? As a natural-born redhead, in no way is any form of redheads are so hot a compliment. All I hear in that is that the only redeeming quality you notice about me is my hair color. And to top it off, I always seem to find the very next thing that's said is one of the following. The last 3 girlfriends were all redheads. Oh man, redheads are so crazy in bed. Is it true what they say about redheads? Or the most abhorrent? Any form of, does the carpet match the curtains? For Christ's sake, no. No, I don't want to hear all your sick assumptions about me because of the color of my hair. I do not find your attraction to my hair color interesting, let alone an attractive thing about you. I have no interest in how many redheads you've slept with. I don't give a flying frick what you assume must be true based on the color of my hair. And I'm sure as hell not interested in talking about my hair, for Christ's sake. Back when I was a young 20-something, fresh out of the police academy and hanging out at my buddy's beach bar pretty regularly, the fastest way to get completely ignored or shut down by me was to bring up my hair color. It's absolutely not okay to judge people based on their skin color, their religion, their culture. Why do so many men think it's totally okay to assume they know everything about me because of my hair color? It's gross. Story 12. I was on a date and the guy, John, took me out for a night in the town. He was driving his Mazda RX-8 sports car and was driving pretty fast through a 35-mile-an-hour zone. It seemed unnecessary and I thought to myself, why is he speeding? He lives around here and should know cops sit here a lot. Cue the red and blue flashing lights behind us. John pulled over and the cop asked him why he was driving so fast, to which he responded, "Well, officer, I was just trying to impress this cute girl here." I tried hard not to roll my eyes at that. The officer was definitely not expecting his honest response and was going to let us go with a warning. The cop came back to the car after going to write up the warning and informed my date that he was sorry, but he had to take him into custody because he had a warrant out for his arrest, unpaid fines from a previous DUI. He handcuffed my date and I was left standing there at 11 p.m. in the rain, mouth agape. I ended up having to drive the RX-8 back to my car so I could go the hell home. Good thing I knew how to drive stick shift. Yay, free car. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy biggest red flag a woman has in the first date. Story 1 will make you rethink dating ever again. See you in that video.